I'm going to explain in detail what is occurring during the intro scene when you start up Xenogears. It's necessary for me to provide insight into the backstory of Xenogears in order to fully grasp the events that unfold during the intro cutscene, so this analysis assumes you have at least played through the game once, as it contains major spoilers. Xenogears has a vast story, and the 1998 video game is only part 5 of a 6-part series. Around 5,000 years prior to the start of the game, humans finished their research on the Zohar, a cryptic energy source that is studied by humans for thousands of years until the Human Federation creates Project Zohar. In an attempt to quell the ubiquitous wars, they created a biological weapon with the capability of acting on its own and called it Deus. As part of the project, they attached the Zohar to Deus to use as a power source, but when Deus was linked with the Zohar, a fourth-dimensional being called a Wave Existence was pulled from its dimension into our third dimension via the path of Sephiroth and trapped within the Zohar. In the final FMV, Krelian, Faye, and Ellie are in the path of Sephiroth. At this point, the Zohar, which was already a very powerful energy source, gave Deus infinite energy. During a test run, the system went haywire and destroyed an entire planet called Mictum. However, the military was able to control the weapon, dismantle it, and put it in suspended animation. A massive colony spaceship called the Eldridge was requisitioned by the military with the intent of transporting the disassembled weapon system, though the mission was top secret and only the few military personnel on board knew of the plan. Aside from storing the weapon, it housed a lot of people and even had its own city within the ship. During the transportation process, Deus is able to hack the supercomputer Raziel's tree and take over the ship. Raziel's tree contains all the knowledge known to mankind which predates the events of the crash landing on the planet, including information about Deus, Zohar, the Wave Existence, and the complete history of humanity and more. When Krelian views the contents of the supercomputer, his motive changes and he begins his plans to reunify with God. We see text being typed into an apparent terminal displaying I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. This is a biblical quote, specifically Revelation 22:13, in which Jesus declares himself to have existed before the creation of the universe with God and therefore is eternal. The Eldridge is a massive ship. The ship is carrying a lot of important systems that are crucial to the story of Xenogears. Notably, the Excalibur 1 and 2 and the Yggdrasil 4 originated from the Eldridge. The ship is also carrying the Zohar, which the humans modified and added computer systems inside of it and called it Catamony, resulting in the Zohar being called a Zohar modifier, though I will just refer to it as a Zohar. The purpose of the modified Zohar is to control and regulate Deus, as well as allowing Deus to become more autonomous with the ability to heal itself via biological programs. Before the events of the intro scene, while the humans were conducting tests on the Zohar-powered Deus, a young boy named Abel makes contact with the Zohar, and it triggers the Wave Existence to formulate a plan in order to free itself and return back to its own dimension. Abel's mother died in the conflict with Deus, and when Abel made contact with the Zohar, the Wave Existence saw that need for a mother that Abel possessed and added a persona to the computer that humans installed in the Zohar to bring the existence of who we know as Elheim into the program Deus would use to resurrect itself. When Abel made contact with the Zohar, the Wave Existence transferred a lot of its power into him, causing him to become the contact. This is why he's able to live throughout the generations, retain his memories, and have immeasurable power. Because power was stripped from the Wave Existence and given to Abel, Deus needs Faye to reunite with the Zohar in order to fuse back with it, so that Deus will have 100% of the Zohar's power once again. The Eldridge, as I said before, is a massive ship. It's 270 kilometers, or 168 miles long. The hull of the ship, after it crashed, became known to the inhabitants as the Tower of Babel. This is why when you climb it, everything is oriented vertically, and there are a lot of futuristic technologies inside of it. This image here is showing the city section where a lot of the inhabitants lived and had their food grown. When Faye and his party climb the city section of the tower by landing on the robot platforms, you can see the painted walls are actually the streets of the city. Going further down the hall, you can see just how massive the colony ship is. Technologies in the game, such as the Yggdrasil, were stored on the ship and eventually found their way in the hands of the Fatima lineage. Eventually, we end up on the hull of the ship, which the game calls Mahanan. In the game, this is where Deus resides, as well as Raziel Central, which is an extremely large cavern which contains the supercomputer Raziel's tree. Here, the operator is activating Emergency 1, the highest level emergency as part of the protocol on the Eldridge. She then says that Omega 1 is restarting, which is the embryonic form of Deus, and Alpha 1, which is the mainframe of the Katamoni supercomputer with its primary protocol being Persona, are awakening. Here we see Deus, the nucleus of the weapon system, in an embryonic form, and despite its infantile stage, it is still incredibly powerful, and it will evolve into multiple stages throughout the game. The operator notes that Deus is contacting Razil Central, the location of Razil's tree. The operator then tries to activate the Phaetek protocol, presumably an override system, but she herself is locked out of activating this protocol by Deus. The operator then tries to activate the quarantine system, but the system is denying her requests. At this point, Deus is quickly taking over control of the systems on the Eldridge. The captain suggests physically cutting the cables to prevent the electronic connections from allowing further containment. This doesn't work as somehow the electricity jumps between the gaps and establishes a connection anyway. Deus is taking control of the weapons on the ship and activates the autopilot system Faust with the intention of going to Lost Jerusalem, the original Earth that was abandoned by humans and for the most part is inaccessible.
Ergo area is increasing. An internal plane is forming. Switching to space displacement mode. Alpha 1, confirming transfer of coordinate codes. Coordinates input, coordinate NX128, EZ061. The main planet.
Damn, so they're planning on attacking. Engine room. Activate the emergency sealing system. Engine room. Engine.
Deus then begins to taunt the inhabitants of the ship by overriding their consoles and displaying "You shall be as gods" over and over. This sentence is an excerpt from Genesis 3:5 in which the serpent tries to deceive the first woman by saying if she eats the forbidden fruit, they will become godlike. At this point, the captain knows there is nothing left to do as the entire ship has been compromised. He seeks to save as many lives as possible by ordering everyone to evacuate. When evacuating, the weapons turn on the escape ships and destroy them all. If you notice these weapons, Faye's party enters one of these facilities which they called Fort Jasper. The captain looks at a locket with his wife and daughter in it, and despite the daughter looking exactly like Ellie, it is not her. The captain knows that Deus is going to go to Lost Jerusalem, and as a means to prevent Deus from going on another destruction spree, executes a self-destruct protocol in an attempt to destroy Deus. The ship crash lands on the uninhabited planet and the only survivor is Abel, the boy who previously made contact with the Zohar. The ship and many of its components land on the planet the game takes place on. In the wreckage, we see a single human called the Original Mother. This being was created through the biological computer Katamoni, which humans added to the Zohar. The purpose of Katamoni was to provide power to Deus through the Zohar and also manage the entire system. Additionally, it has the ability to create organic life. The Original Mother was created through this system. She then created Cain in the Gazelle Ministry. She then clones herself twice, one into Miang and the other into Ellie, the latter being because of Faye's contact with the Zohar. Miang's purpose is to resurrect Deus at any cost as she is literally compelled to do so via her programming, and Ellie's purpose is to be the caretaker of Abel and his incarnations in order for him to eventually reunite with the Zohar.